Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, this thing on. Good afternoon, everybody. Would like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the January 22nd first Supplemental Benefits Fund meeting of the year. Can't hear me? Yeah, I think it'll adjust automatically. Madam Clerk, we have the actually the Pledge of Allegiance first. Please stand with me for the pledge. Salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have the roll, please.
Member Fowler.
Here.
Member Pittman.
Here.
Member Reynolds.
Here.
Member Brandt.
Here.
Member Thompson.
Here.
Advisory Member C. Advisory Member Haynes. Advisory Member Steindorf. And Advisory Member Grover.
Where's all of our advisory members? Here. Minus Mr. Grover.
Sure if this is on. I did get word that Tim Haynes has retired, which I have not heard of his replacement yet. I know we have an alternate, which I don't see in the room. And then Eric C. is expected to be here anytime.
Great. Also, would like to remind everybody, if you would like to speak as normal for the city council meetings, please fill out the blue cards located over here. And we have the minutes, if you look here at your information, are limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Madam Clerk, do we have any individuals who would like to speak on non-agenda items?
Mr. Chair, I have 3 speakers. The first speaker is Barbara Eldridge.
Hi, I'm Barbara Eldridge, and
Please,
I am
I'm sorry, can you speak into the mic? Thank you.
Barbara Eldridge, and I am the pickleball ambassador for Oroville. I have the privilege of representing a good group that I get to play with down at Bedrock. They love the sport as much as I do. We're here to be considered for future funding assistance to construct new and dedicated pickleball courts at Nelson Park. I believe you've been given a rendering of, just hot off the press, literally, of how that would be situated at Nelson. Dedicated simply means that the lining of the court is to be only pickleball lines. We are overlaid on top of a tennis court at Bedrock. To say that the lines get a little blurry, they do. It's like playing ping pong on a pool table. The other thing is that we have a governing board called USAPA, and on their website, you will find places to play. There are over 685 places to play across the nation. You can go from California all the way to the East Coast and have a destination vacation. We've been very privileged to have from the western side of the United States, almost every state represented here in Oroville, which we know is they've been bringing their RVs, or they have been bringing, they eat at restaurants, they support our hotels. The point that I want to make with you today is that we are literally out of room at Bedrock. We have no place to grow, and we are getting 1 to 2 people a month during the wintertime. During the summertime, that's almost weekly. We have exploded in numbers, and we're encroaching onto the tennis courts. Tennis people are not real happy for that, of course. You've got a great park over there. You have pickleball, tennis, volleyball, even that puff tennis.
I'm sorry, ma'am. That's the time right there. It does go by real fast.
If you have any questions, Mike.
Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Tony Cantillano.
I'm here just to I'll let you know how we're reinvesting your funding in Oroville. We have purchased 3 rafts, used rafts from a river company up in Coloma, and we're going to be using those for the Salmon Festival and to do float on the feather with the salmon field trips with school kids. And in conjunction with that, I'm writing a grant for to a foundation to try to get funding so that we could get City of Oroville kids to come in for free or very low cost on that. We also purchased 2 large safety launches for the rowing programs, and we're in the initial planning stages for a regatta, which we're going to hold the first Saturday in October. And our board is talking about more ways that we could reinvest the funding that you've provided for our program back into the City of Oroville. So we just wanted to let you know how we're spending our money.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The last speaker is Beth Bello.
Good afternoon. I'm here to support our local pickleball enthusiasts and our USA Pickleball Association Ambassador Barbara Eldridge for our need of dedicated pickleball courts for our community. My name is Beth Bello, an Oroville resident for 12 years and an avid player of the recreational sport of pickleball. I also have refereed professional and amateur matches at USAPA sanctioned tournaments. Pickleball is a huge growing sport. In 2018 and 19, I had the opportunity to referee at numerous sanctioned tournaments and meeting folks from all over the world. Last month, I refereed 4 days at the indoor championship nearby in Rockland. I met players from Washington, Nevada, Arizona, and California, to name a few. Per the March 2006 Settlement Agreement Recreation Management Plan, FERC number 2100 4.2.8, our proposal for the development of recreational pickleball courts falls within the category for future SBF funding. With that said, I hope we can secure future SBF funding for the dedicated courts. Pickleball is a sport that can holistically benefit our youth and adult community. In addition, if we host tournaments, we can bring in revenue to Oroville. Thank you for letting me speak this afternoon on behalf of my passion of the recreation sport of pickleball and express our needs for courts for our community.
Thank you so much. Love your passion.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chair, that is the last speaker.
This time, moving to consent calendar, I would actually like to poll number 3. Any other items somebody wants to poll or looking for recommendation, motion?
I'll move that we.
I'll second it.
Motion carries.
Can we have a report on number 3, please?
You're on.
Oh, no, you're not.
Now I'm on. Okay, so in front of you guys, we have number 3, which was pulled, which is the extension on several 2018 NOFA agreements. Quite a few of them. There are 1, 2, 3. There are 5 of them. 2 of the 5 are requesting either a change on their agreement or additional funding. The other ones are a straightforward, just they haven't gone through their funding as quickly as possible or as quickly as their agreement they originally had written. So they're just asking for an extension for, some of them are about 6 months, some are a year. B is the one that I'm talking about that is asking for additional funding, which is the ODBA. The reason for their additional funding, if you read in their letter, is they secured the billboard rental, the downtown billboard, if you guys have seen it coming underneath the railroad tracks. They right now have it a month-to-month basis. They're asking for additional funding to secure it for a year. So that is what the additional funding of $3,700 would go towards. Other than that, letter E is for stage. They have additional funding left in their agreement as well. They have not supplied it yet, but they're wanting to present a new budget and proposal for what the remaining funds are for. They're wanting to use it for a project, the solar and roof project in 2020. So that wasn't initially written into their original agreement. It doesn't change their funding from what you guys agreed upon. It just changes their proposal a little bit. So those are the only two changes on the two NOFAs. The other ones are just straightforward, was wanting an extension on their funding.
Thank you. I would request from staff that in the future that we do separate those in our staff reports, because the staff report title only says agreement extension request, or some of these are not just agreement extension requests, B and E being different from that. So in future we can separate those
Absolutely.
out. And it's the B that I think primarily that I have issue with. I mean, I see the value in having the sign, and we can have open for discussion here, but to have an ongoing expense from the SBF to hold that, I would see something more permanent be put in place. A welcome to downtown Oroville that's not an ongoing yearly expense. I would like to see that proposed as opposed to just having a continual rental of a billboard where potentially a business downtown could rent that to advertise their business or different events. So that's the one thing I have issue with this proposal.
Okay.
Anybody else? Mr. Mayor Reynolds.
Yeah, I had a couple questions about this too. Isn't this up and running, and haven't they been collecting monies? And if so, what are the monies for?
They have been collecting their monies allotted within the grant that was afforded them originally. What they're looking for is to go beyond the parameters of the original grant. They want to rent the billboard for a year at a time because they get a better monthly rate or a better yearly rate than what they get. So the $3,700 would be necessary to complete the year's rent of the billboard. The other $6,000 request in here is for office space. Staff is recommending against any increase on that.
That was removed.
Why wouldn't the expense of the sign come out of their money that they're collecting?
It's beyond what the amount of funding that was given to them. It's above and beyond the number. It's additional funding that's necessary to keep it
Mr.
going
Mayor, are
longer.
you referring to the money through the BID or the money through SBF?
Through the money collected by the BID.
BID.
But those are separate issues. This is solely about the SBF. They're looking to the SBF for another $3,700 for the sign. The BID is a completely different issue.
Okay.
Vice Chair Pittman.
Yeah, I guess my thought that I'll just add in the conversation here about that is our intention here, because this SBF is one-time funding and it'll go away one day. I think the purpose of the grant was to seed the opportunity of economic improvement and then be able to see them turn it over to be able to fund it themselves. I will say that sign is very effective. It's been very well publicized, and it's actually very effective for downtown. I mean, I've heard a lot of positive comments about it. I'm kind of inclined to go along with their request, but also at the same time realizing that that's about as far as we'll go. I mean, it's not really what our intentions are to do. I appreciate the sign, and like I said, it's been a very positive comment. I kind of wish they owned their own sign somewhere along the line, but I'm inclined to approve the request, but this would be the last
Yes,
from my
sir.
perspective.
I would advise the committee that if you do approve this, that it's made really clear that when you award these grants, that doesn't open the door to coming back to every meeting and asking for a little more. This is a one-time exception. This is not a practice. This is not a policy. I have a difficult time as staff approving any of these because grant amounts are grant amounts. You don't get a chance to bite at the apple again. You've got your bite. However, if the committee decides to do that, I think it is a valuable project. I think it is needed and necessary for the downtown. I would just be really clear with everyone that we aren't going to start this process of if you get 500 and you decide a couple months later 7 would have been better, that you come back and ask for 7. And I don't see that as this. I just want to caution everybody that we're not going to get into that practice.
Member Brandt?
Sounds to me like revolving loan. They're collecting the money, they just haven't got it yet. But they need the money now, but it can come back. No?
No, there would be no payback on this.
payback.
Member, I'm sorry.
You're renting a billboard. It's essentially what you're doing with this money.
No, I'm saying if the money were borrowed from a revolving loan account, it could come back.
If they
when they
if they chose to enter into an agreement where they wanted to borrow the money, we certainly could enter into that type of agreement with them if they had the revenues to support a loan.
Member Reynolds?
Something I'd like to say too, something I noticed this year that was very different when the BID took over. There was no invitations extended to city council or anyone else. So I'll tell you how I found out about the Christmas tree lighting was my wife saw it on Facebook. I didn't know the date. I didn't know anything. And what I heard when I don't know those involved, but when they were asked about it, why didn't you invite city council? Why didn't you invite the mayor? We're doing something different this year. Well, we're a very big part of this, and we would like to be involved. At least give us the opportunity to say that we're not interested or decline, which I don't think you would find. I think that you would find that we would be very involved. We're not all running with our own program here. This is one community, and we're working together. We can see that by the way you're coming to the SBF and wanting to finance your endeavors. At least give us the courtesy of inviting us to your venues.
Thank you, Member Reynolds.
No.
As far as, yeah, blue cards, but it's already, once the item's already going, then. Just in back to the conversation with this request, in my opinion, as you know, as a chair or a member here with the SBF, when somebody does, I'd hope when somebody does a proposal for finances that they do their due diligence to look into what they're going to be doing and what's going to be needed. So with that, I'm not inclined to vote in favor of a increase for the sign. Again, I can see other ways that the funds can be used as opposed to just renting of an ongoing billboard. But I'm open to motion. Do we have any any blue cards on this one?
Mr. Chair, I do not have any blue speaker cards on this item.
I'll make a motion that we do not increase the grant for the sign.
We have a first and second. So this motion right now, just to clarify, is only in regards to item B, not the other items. So we'll have to open another motion for the rest of it.
And Mr. Chairperson, just to clarify the motion, is the motion intended to extend the agreement without the addition of the $3,720?
Yes.
Okay. And is the second also for that?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
So a vote, yeah, there you A vote yes is a vote of no.
A vote of yes is to.
Is an agreement to
is
the
to
motion.
extend the contract,
Yeah.
but not to
Award more funds.
A vote of-
increase it by $3,700.
Yeah, a vote of yes is to agree with the motion.
Ballot.
Motion carries.
All right, do we have another motion on A, C, and D, and E? It is item 3, so it's A, B, C, D, let's see. So these are the, and this is just the agenda packet. So A is regarding the Birdcage Theater extension of their contract. C is regarding the Feather River Recreation Park District extension to their contract. D is the Veterans Memorial extending their contract. And then E as well is for the stage, it's a reallocation of their contract and an extension of their contract. Do we approve? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
First and second, voting is open.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. At this point, we have a presentation and updates.
Okay, so our first presentation is going to be from Amber with the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Amber.
Thanks.
Extra, so if you guys want to share, there's, I think, about 7 extra. Hello, everyone. Is the microphone? Yeah, I hear it now. So I'm Amber, I'm with the Oroville Chamber of Commerce, and I just wanted to give a little 2019 review report over what we did with the SBF funds for 2019. There we go. So within our SBF contract, we work on our websites, mainly OrovilleChamber.com and VisitOroville.com is the big SBF one, but we do also share SBF related stuff on OrovilleChamber.com and LakeOroville.net. We share stuff from our contract through social media on Facebook and Instagram, email through highlights on our weekly e-bulletin and e-blast, at the Visitor Center by taking tourism-related calls, walk-ins, and answering tourism emails. So over the last year on our website, you can see in the first 5 months, both Visit Oroville and OrovilleChamber.com both VisitOroville.com and LakeOroville.net started at 0, and that's because during that time we were recreating VisitOroville.com as a separate website and revamping LakeOroville.net. But you will see on the blue line, the Oroville Chamber had massive views while those were being created, especially in the spring. We speculate due to Feather Fiesta days, and then you can see VisitOroville.com spike in the fall Salmon Festival. Some of the things we do on VisitOroville.com is we host signature events pages, for example, Feather Fiesta Days and Salmon Festival. We also include the Snow Goose Festival, the Wildflower and Nature Festival, the Parade of Lights, the Farmers Markets, the 4th of July fireworks, and we're going to add Arbor Day, Olive Festival is on there, and pretty much any other yearly community events that have been withstanding year to year. And then we also do blog posts on specific events. So for example, right now we have a blog post highlighting Restaurant Week and specifically the 2 restaurants in Oroville that are participating in that. Then we do ones on some of our local attractions like the Feather River Fish Hatchery. And I always use my daughter as a model for these. And
And then in social media, you can see how many total followers, reach, impressions, engagements we had on both Facebook and Instagram. And on Facebook, we have started doing some more live videos. When Terry was working with us, she did a lot. This one is one Eric did. He was just at the International Sportsman's Expo this last week to promote Oroville and the community. And then on Instagram, we do a lot of promotion of local events. For example, the downtown Oroville tree lighting. Here's a couple graphs of Facebook analytics. They spike for our main core community events in May for Feather Fiesta Days, September for Salmon Festival. The Instagram analytics I only had the quarterly reports, so that's why it looks a little steeper than the Facebook ones. So for email, we do weekly e-bulletins, and we'll highlight stuff like we did a highlight on the upcoming event, Wildflower and Nature Festival, because they're looking for vendors. And you can see we kind of dropped a little on opens, but we started to even back out. There's no real increase here like there are in views on the website or on our social media, but we do have a steady flow of people who open and read and click on the links on these. Then to talk about what our plan is in 2020, we're planning to continue doing what we've been doing with the website, email, social media, visitor center. We have been looking at options to do a visitor guide. So if you have happened to see the Explore Butte County visitor guide, we're looking to do something similar, but it would also include the recreation of the Green Line tour, the walking tour, the downtown museums tour, everything that needs to be repainted, updated, all that stuff. And then we plan on having a larger presence at annual community events. We tested this out at Salmon Festival and the Wildflower and Nature Festival last year. Salmon Festival, we had an informational booth right by the Feather River Fish Hatchery, and we got so many people, so we're planning on doing a booth on the upcoming Feather Fiesta Days as well. And then we are looking at other ways to expand our marketing reach, particularly like television ads, get more in depth with internet ads, stuff like that. That's all I have. Any questions?
Just a quick question, when you say open and clicks, does click mean it went past the first page?
Yeah, so open is someone actually opened the email. Click means they click the button to check out the vendor registration form for the Wildflower Festival.
What do you think, just from your perspective, are we getting more response in internet or Facebook?
It's actually a bit of both. So for the email, we definitely get more views through Facebook. But email, we tend to get more engagement in because it is people who signed up who want to know more about these events and what's going on in Oroville.
I would add that I've had many compliments about the videos telling something, like Eric's discussion down at the show was very effective, I think, in terms of, you know, telling the story, because people want to hear the story and see the story. So those are probably the strongest things, and thanks to Tara in the past for some great videos. So I think those work really well.
Yes, I agree. And Eric wanted to report that at the International Sportsman's Expo, he didn't hear a single negative comment about Oroville. It was either, wait, what's this place? What can I do there? What's the fishing like? Or, yeah, I go there every year. We love Oroville. So that was some good feedback from out of the county.
Good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amber.
Next presentation is the
I don't have the mics figured out. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, so the next two things I have on the list I'll be quick with. They are just requests from committee members at our last meeting in October. So the first one I have is the value of the original 2100 agreement versus current value. That was requested by committee member Brandt at our last meeting in October. I just have a little bit of information for you guys. I can always provide you more if you would like to. It's just a verbal report. There is no inflation clause on these fundings, so this is just a small report because it doesn't change anything of what original funding is. Just wanted to put that out there. But since 2005, when it was signed, there has been an inflation of 31.77%. So if $100 back then is now worth 131.77, just to simplify it. And in other words, the 61 million, if there was an inflation factor written into the original agreement, would have been worth around about 80 million. So it's about a almost $20,000 difference if there was, $1 million difference, a little bit off there, if there was an inflation clause written in, which there wasn't. So it's just a little bit clarification. I can always give you the inflation calculator I used. Simply one that was found online. If there's any questions.
Committee Member Brent?
My question was today's value versus the value when we signed the agreement.
Yeah.
In the years have gone by, it originally was a $50 million commitment for $1 million a year if it's a 50-year license, and $30 million with $1 million a year if it's a 30-year license. So you could say that was a $50 million commitment they made. Now, they made that X number of years ago. The years have gone by. They got the water. They sold the water. They're selling the water. The water price, what was the water price then and what's the water price now? They're making more money. They're not paying us the $1 million a year. And the value of that, what was $1 million when we signed the agreement, is no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my question. What is that value? That $1 million for this year that we would have gotten had the agreement been signed. And now we're here. What does that $1 million turn out to be?
Go ahead. Committee Member Brandt, to answer your question, it would be $1,310,000 per year is what $1 million is worth compared to when you signed it. So what you're actually losing over the course of the time that the license hasn't been signed is about $20 million.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
But since there was no inflation agreement written into it,
that's another way to
we have
put
no
it.
control.
I was taking it backwards, bringing it down from the $1 million.
Well, you wouldn't reduce off of your principal. Your principal remains the same. What you're looking at is what would be the growth of your principal if an inflator had been built into the contract, which you don't have. So, and if you look at comparable dollars, what was a dollar worth 10 years ago or when the license was signed as opposed to today,
Yeah.
You would still have $50 million.
Yeah,
But what can $50 million buy? Is the
Yeah,
question.
if it was $1 then, it's 80 cents now.
Right.
So that's our agreement. That's what we get.
Correct. You have essentially left $20 million on the table.
$20 million, and the water price is going up, and we're going down. That's backwards.
Yes. Any other questions on that, committee members? Okay. To move on to the next one, another just quick thing to touch on, the Marciniak Consulting Services Agreement number 3242 ended at the first of the year. I was very lucky to have Bob Marciniak for that time span to help with, getting me into the flow of things with this position. He is always still available on call and by email and always willing to help if I need him. So if we ever come to something that we need his help with, we can always rewrite or reopen a contract with him. He would be more than willing to come in. There was a remaining balance on that, and this was just a report for you guys to see that remaining balance of $2,442.50 will be transferred into the non-committed funds. So it's just a closing of an agreement that had a balance left over that will be transferred in. So that is the only two updates that I have for you guys.
Thank you. Moving on to regular business. Now moving on to number 4, event coordinator services release for proposals. Do we have any speakers on this item?
Mr. Chair, I do not have any blue speaker cards for this item.
Presentation?
Mr. Chair, what you have in front of you today is consideration of the release for proposal. The proposal is for the event coordinator. As you can see, the proposal was broke up into the multiple different events that exist for the city that are funded by the SBF. With the announcement of our current provider that they were going to retire, and then there was a change of heart in that. This was authorized prior to us being aware of the change of heart. So we have brought the RFP forward. We think it would be wise to, at this time, to still release the RFP, see which groups are interested in this, and then bring those groups on board and take advantage of our current provider to educate and train what all is necessary for these events. It's a nice safety net to have to make sure that these are going to happen and allow our current provider to assist them with that. So what we're looking for today is any input you would have on the request for proposals that we'll be putting out. If there is no input and you're good with that, we will be releasing that and returning to this body at the next quarterly meeting with the results of that and a presentation from the groups that are interested in it. We will be asking that when the RFPs are released, that a complete response does include if you are not interested in one event, but you are interested in another. Hypothetical would be, say, a person is not interested in being the event coordinator for the light parade or the 4th of July fireworks, salmon festival, or the flower festival, but they just want to do the Feather Fiesta Days. What we would like is a response back to Feather Fiesta Days and then a line drawn across the others stating no interest. So if the board is good with that, or the committee, we will be releasing this. We will get responses back from the public, and we will be returning to you at the next SBF quarterly meeting with the results of this request for proposals.
Thank you. Seeing there's no blue cards in this, from the dais, have Member Reynolds in the queue.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be my recommendation, is that they put a value to each one of these events individually. So if they're interested in some and not others, then we have the value of it, rather than just one lump sum. I'd like to see it broken out. To piggyback on Bill's statement.
Member Brent?
I'd agree with that, and I think, I know the wildflower festivals, the Feather River Recreation District's pretty involved in that, and that's maybe something we could take on. But, I mean, I think it's good to go out for the proposal, see who's interested and what their bid would be on it, and maybe piecemeal it. Maybe there's different organizations. The Nature Center was pretty involved in the Salmon Festival. I don't know how capable or how active they are right now, but there may be local community organizations that can pick this up and not for a whole lot of money even, and still promote it. It's in their interest, and it might be a good way to go. Maybe not, but let's take a look at it.
And to build on Commissioner Brandt's statement, I think it's very important that we also keep Mr. Logger in place for at least 1 year. And the reason being is because anytime you watch a professional do something, it looks really easy. And then you grab a hold of it yourself, and it's a little bit more than what you thought. So, I think it's really important that we keep Mr. Logger there as we move forward, because we want to have successful events. And we want to give everybody the opportunity to learn. And sometimes when you learn things, in order to experience success, you have to experience failure. And having an expert and a professional there limits the level of that failure. So I would really strongly urge the committee to keep Mr. Logger in place for a minimum of a year.
And I would agree with that statement.
I have the RFP written for 3 weeks, so to release it for 3 weeks. That's also something that we can discuss. The next SBF meeting is not until April 22nd, which would not allow time if we did pick an organization to overlap with Wildflower Festival. So that's something that we might want to talk about as well. If you guys want to extend that RFP for longer, or if you want to keep it at 3 weeks and then call a special meeting to hear from the proposals so that we get someone in place before the Wild Festival to shadow Mr. Logger. It's completely up to you guys.
Vice Chair Pittman? Vice Mayor.
Promote me.
Right? Promotion, you can have it.
I appreciate that conversation, 'cause that was my thoughts, that we have some flexibility into this.
Absolutely.
I also would say that to me, as a member here, the events are more important than whether we have a special meeting or not. So if we need to have a special meeting to approve the agreement or something, I'm fine with that, because the events need to move on. I'd also like to add a little more flexibility. If someone proposed a new event, that there be some mechanism in that to help and assist a new event. And I'm just saying, we never know. We might have a new event come forward, and it'd be nice to have it along the same price, or maybe someone wants to propose a new event. Having that, blank spot on our process to add that, just to encourage others that may want to throw down an event into it. We have a lot of new things happening in the town, and it'd be nice to be able to have and facilitate that without having, encourage the people to put in an event that we might help with them with their event on the startup. So, thank you.
Mr. Committee Member Pittman, if there was, to add on to that, or to piggyback on or dovetail into your comment, the possibility exists within your budget that if you wanted to earmark a certain number of dollars or park a certain number of dollars in this fund that isn't dedicated to anything in the event that something like that does come forward, the committee certainly has that. It's not an expenditure, it's just saying, hey, we're setting this money here in the event that another great event does come forward that we want to participate in.
Yeah.
Also, Member Reynolds?
Thank you. Yeah, that would be the whole idea, is to put the new, if someone's going to win a proposal, that that they would work with Mr. Lager for
The year.
a year, because otherwise a year from now, we're in the same spot. Doesn't have any freedom, and we're holding him hostage. But another thing that I would suggest, and in fact, at this point, having seen what I seen this last year, I would have to insist that we get a list of the events, again, with the value to them and what is specifically to be provided. Because I was in a few conversations, and being new, not even knowing most of the people, well, who's supposed to be doing this? Well, there was a lot of questions that really should have been on paper written out, should have been very clear. And I just don't want to end up in that position again. And it would be easier on everyone involved if I'm doing this, but I'm not doing that. And that way we know what to expect.
Absolutely. In your guys' RFP, which you have in your packet, each, Ray and I work together, each event has been broken down, and there's a blank next to them. We didn't really want to put the dollar amount that Ray and I thought should go towards it. We kind of wanted to see what, they could propose to us. But there is a breakdown on each event and kind of what Ray's roles were, and I 100% agree that they need to shadow Ray so those questions are answered and they can move forward with, the confidence of knowing what they're doing.
Whatever you provide a service, and there are multifacets to the service, it cannot be one lump sum. It has to be broken down in individual values. Because what if Mr. Lager in the middle says, I've had enough of you guys, and walks out, but he says, I've done one event and that was worth 14,000 but not saying that, but I've been in situations where it has to be itemized. The values have to be itemized.
So Ray's contract is set for the next year. So he he is covered for the next year. We're talking about bringing someone in to shadow. So that is something we would have to work out with, the new organization that comes in, would we pay them some to shadow for that year? Is this a volunteer basis so that they feel comfortable for that year? So that's something we would have to work out. But we have Ray for the next year, and he's in contract for that. So
we have him for the next year, but what
Yes.
are we going to be doing sitting here a year from now?
well, that's why we're
So
trying to bring in
not gonna
someone
have
before.
anybody trained. Going to have to make arrangements to have somebody trained.
Yes, and that's what we're hoping to do with this RFP.
Yeah. Okay.
And I would assume that whoever wants the contract would be ready and willing to do that, because they also want to succeed.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like we're in the same mind, so we're looking for a motion to release the RFP. I think 3 weeks is fine, get this
Okay.
moving forward.
Sounds good.
Mr. Chairman, then what we'll do is we will put it out for the 3 weeks, if that is the motion and the second, and then we will schedule a special meeting somewhere toward the end of February for review, consideration, and awarding of the RFPs.
Yay, don't we love special meetings?
Yes, we do. That's what we live for.
Looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to move the
I'll second.
Motion carries.
Great, next item.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee. What you have before you today is we're looking for clarification regarding the grant to the Feather River Center. The recent request for reimbursement came through, and on the request was a request for reimbursement, $2,400 for an employee. Looking at that and looking at the request, knowing that the supplemental benefit fund does not allow for operation and maintenance, I had to review the contract that we had with the Feather River Center and the grant and the proposal. I reviewed all of the documents, and I'm unable to find anywhere in any of the documents that authorize the payment of the $2,400. The $2,400 was not paid. The rest of the request was reimbursed. So what we're looking for is just clarification from the committee as to what was the original intent. When you look at the original proposal, there is a vague reference made to management staffing in one part of it. In D, it's referred to as FRC, the Feather River Center Program and Project Development, management staffing, equipment, and Melton Design Group services. Listed under that is a little bit of a breakdown, but it does not say anything about an employee. And it doesn't even allude to that, so it alludes to other things. So what we're looking for is, we're not here to say anybody did anything wrong or anything's inappropriate. We just need authority. If that was the intent of this committee for us to pay that, we need the authority to pay it. The minutes of this meeting are adequate for that. If that was not the intent, then we have to get back with the grantee and inform them of that and let them know how we proceed forward from here.
Which, can you, again, I'm looking now at the project description. Which item did you say has that on there?
It's going to be a categorization of the SBF contract and reimbursement.
No, on the product, is it under the project?
Product description,
What letter is that?
page 7, it's gonna be letter D.
Mapping, alignment, topography, site analysis, biological studies, constraints, evacuation parameters, utility needs assessment. So where did you say that?
The only thing that it even vaguely would indicate anything like that would be management staffing that's in the heading of D.
Gotcha. Because on the agreement that we gave to them, just for, again, this is for purpose of clarification, on agreement item number 1, this is on, gosh, there's no page, first page on this. The purpose of this agreement is to provide a supplemental benefit fund grant, the funding for development and equipment purchase for the Feather River Center in Oroville, California, guarantees agreement to use the grant funds received from the city in accordance with the terms of this agreement, except as expressly provided in this agreement. The city shall have no obligation to reimburse. So it's about, I read something specifically. Oh, excuse me, the grant funding for development and equipment purchase is specific on that first sentence there. So I don't see anything in regarding development and equipment purchase and employment. So, do we have any other speakers on this, or? When you have, do we have any blue cards on this, actually?
Mr. Chairperson, I do not have any blue cards on this.
So, again, we mentioned at first, but if you want to speak on it, you have to definitely want to fill out a card before the items. That way we don't get it back and forth and a kind of discussion going on these items.
Mr. Chairperson, in this particular instance, since the individual requesting to speak is also the grantee, I would encourage us to hear their words.
Yeah, I'm definitely open to that. I just want to clarify because I don't want to get into this back and forth. Before we get into the dais, would you like to speak on this? Or who is the grantee, if you'd like to?
Sure.
Please.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I apologize for not filling out the card. I understood the card to be for non-agenda items.
Gotcha.
When we write this, I have my copy here too, and it does say for project and equipment, or development and equipment purchases. My job has been to promote these projects, develop these projects, oversee the equipment purchases, develop new programs that are going to give you a return on your investment. And we have been using that, the Feather River Center Board has been using that to pay my salary, is what's happening with it. And we understand from the very beginning that this is soft money and that this money is not intended to fund a position for an extended period of time. So what I've been doing, the board has authorized me and directed me to work on raising more funds so that we can promote or fund my position in the future, whether it's me or somebody else, as well as developing money or raising money to fund our Peninsula project, our rowing regatta project also. What my goal is for this year is to raise about $200,000, $150,000 of which would go to the Peninsula project to supplement the SBF's allocation to Melton Design Group, and another $50,000 to fund my position. We feel it's a legitimate use of the money because A, we know it's soft money. We don't intend to come back and ask for more on it. And B, because I work, all my time is spent developing programs for the Fort Bay Aquatic Center. So it's all related. I have to oversee all the equipment purchases. For example, I'm putting together the Wild and Scenic Film Festival, February 29th, and the funds we raise from that is going to go towards the Peninsula project also. I've written numerous grants. I've been able to write numerous grants, a few of which have gotten funded to provide more programming opportunities for the Fort Bay that save us some money in staffing. And there was another thing, I can't remember it right now. So this money has been funding all of those activities. I sit on the Explore Butte County Advisory Board representing Oroville and that to try to promote more tourism here. We're putting together our first regatta in October 5th, I think it is, the first Saturday in October, and that's going to bring up $29,000 to $30,000 at least into the community through hotels and food service and all that. Our board is also looking at additional ways that we could take some of the money we generate by these regattas and reinvesting them in the community too. So that's what the money's for, and that's what we've been spending the money on, and that's what I've been doing. I'm funded, I was funded 10 hours a week 2 years ago. They're paying me 15 hours a week last year, and this year they're paying me 20 hours a week. And so I work about 40 hours a week, but we're able to, because of this funding, we're able to get these programs off the ground and going, and it's freeing me to do a lot of grant writing and more economic development activities.
Thank you. I'm sure there's going to be more questions for this, and I'll open up the dais in just 1 second. I just want to, from my standpoint, let you know that when we get these SBF requests for money, and there's a lot of effort that we as a board or myself puts into looking into to approve the funds. From my standpoint, just to let you know, when I approved the funds for this project, nowhere in it did I see funds for a position or for so to come back and to basically say that funds are being used differently. I saw equipment that was going to improve. I saw a bunch of kayaks, if memory
did
serves
all
me
that,
right, and
right.
whatnot. And so to come back and say, well, actually, this is what we're using for, not to undermine the importance of your position, but it does, to me, take a little bit of credibility away when I approve for projects or for equipment and then find out that, well, this is actually what we're using it for. Another example would be a proper way to do this. Stage, in their submittal today, they had extra funds that weren't going to be used for what they presented it for. And instead of just saying, well, we're just going to go ahead and use it for this, they have come back and say, actually, we have excess money in our funds. We would like approval to now use the funds that were previously approved for this. We would like to have approval for those funds to be now used for this. Right. Whereas it doesn't sound like this is what's happening in this situation where we approved, and I approved, at least I can speak for my vote, I approved for equipment. And with the SBF, I don't see within our mode of operandum, of course, we can always do whatever we want, but to fund a position or employment like this, it's ongoing. So that would not have been something that I would have approved from the get-go. And so that's, I think, a point as well while we're clarifying this. So anyway, that's my 2 cents from here. Member Reynolds?
Yeah, the SPF is very clear about no maintenance, no operations, which would include no employees. And I'm not even sure what the liability of that is, having an employee, because essentially you'd be our employee. And yes, I guarantee you there's a lawyer that'll make that stick. So it was my intention that to vote for equipment and project, and but no salary, sir.
Okay.
But your job is valuable. We
Yes.
appreciate everything you do.
Absolutely.
But this is not the funding source for that, as far as I'm concerned.
And I want to make clear, too, we did not try to pull the wool over anyone's eyes or anything. We thought we were being very clear with project development being an important part of the funding. So, we understood that you don't like to fund positions, and when we made the proposal, we were taking a chance at it, and we thought we were clear with it, so we did not try to cheat anybody or
That's not
anything
your
like
intent,
that.
absolutely. Vice Mayor Pittman? Vice Chair.
I got all kinds of names, that's fine.
Pittman.
Well, and I appreciate that. I remember the discussion too, is because we asked an amendment to your proposal because there wasn't adequate funding at the time. I do understand, and I remember and recall a discussion about the need for the project development for the rowing course in the forebay and the digging out and all that. And I have to admit that I knew somebody was going to have to be paid somewhere, consultants or staff or someone. This is a little different, but at the same time, as you use the word soft money, it is soft money. I guess it's easy for me to clarify this because you're working for your board. You're not working for us, so I'm okay with the board and how they interpret. But the issue is, it would be great if we had a description of work product for whoever that staff person is as to what that is actually accomplishing and how it is satisfying the goals of the grant. That would be a great thing to have, to say, and I've been in the grant world and I know how much time it takes to fill out grants, and it's a very tough thing to ask volunteers to do that because your deleterious details drive someone nuts, especially when you're looking at environmental grants and those kind of things and those topics. So I'm great for a clarification. I mean, that works for me, and it's fuzzy in the grant project. I mean, it says project management and it says management staffing, but I can see where we can need to have the interpretation cleared up. Mr. Brandt.
Yeah, Member Brandt?
How did your job start, and who paid you in the beginning?
Well, way back in, I think it was 2015, when it was the Feather River Rowing Club, they received a grant from the SBF and paid me and 2 other people, I guess as I think we were consultants at the time, because that was the way the grant was written, and Dr. Seeley had written it that way. And after that, We dissolved that organization and formed the new one. And my salary is being paid through the revenues that I've generated through the rentals and through the field trip programs and all the special events and everything we do. And at the time of this idea came up, that we wanted to do this peninsula project and do all these expansions. We have 3 expansion projects we want to do. We felt that it was justifiable and related to the Supplemental Benefits Fund because it's going to benefit tourism and economic development in Oroville. So, and I'd be glad to provide you with more detail. We've been doing this since the inception of the grant in May or June, and I, provide some sketchy, basic outline of the things I've done. So if you would, I'm certainly willing to give you more detail because every minute I spend doing whatever I do here is all related to this.
I'm not looking for a lawyer's response. I'm just more looking at a summary detailed spreadsheet that where's the work product going? What accomplishments are, moving forward?
No lawyer response from me, Dave. Don't worry about that. So,
Thank you, sir.
yep. Okay, you're welcome.
Any more comments? Oh, Member Reynolds?
What's the legalities of that bill using this SBF money for an employee's wages?
It certainly would be the committee's prerogative if that's what they chose to do, because everyone must remember at the end of the SBF, after everything's laid out and everything's said and done, it says, or do what you want. Why you spend the time to create a document like that and then add that at the end is beyond me, but that's what's there. That's what exists. I think the issue you run into is that the SBF was never intended to operate or fund operations. If you want to have a bunch of operations that are dependent upon this limited amount of money, that's a slippery slope you start down. Because then, if this exists and then the next one comes forward, where do you stop? This has been an operation that's been ongoing for 5 years. I believe the original conversation was seed money. Well, we've gone beyond the point in which this would be seed money. To cover some of what was said, too, additionally, was the committee also has to make a decision if it's a non-allowed expense. Do you wish us to recover the money? Or do you want to put it as a lesson learned to move forward? We need to have that direction as to, or pay it. Any of it's within your prerogative. I would caution you to not get into the practice of funding these types of operations. Otherwise, you're going to end up with businesses opened everywhere that you're subsidizing, which in turn an argument could be made that you are creating an unfair market because the government is underwriting another business when it's not doing another one, if somebody wanted to do something similar. So we don't want to even get into that business. We want to be as above board as possible, use it for what it's intended. That was whether it's a startup for equipment, or studies. If, as what Mr. Contalano explained in here is what he's doing, that's more of a project manager type of a thing. If you have a specific project, such as the peninsula removal or something like that, then that is something that the SBF could fund, because that is a specific thing to removal of that peninsula. It's not to the overall operation and increasing of the business. We're getting into a really large and vague and vast area there that we don't want to enter into. If we want to have a project manager, I would encourage the Feather River Center to bring back a potential request for amendment or something like that for a specific project manager for that specific thing. But you must also show that you have the expertise to accomplish what you're project managing.
Absolutely. For a project of this size and for us to hand over hundreds of thousands of dollars and not doubting your abilities, sir, but we didn't see any qualifications or anything put forward to us. And my intent when I funded this project was for to not have maintenance or operations, to not have employees. I know that's a slippery slope. A lot of times I ask questions that I already know the answer to just because I want everybody else to hear it. But I think that it would open the floodgates. And again, not to impugn your integrity, sir, I'm sure that you're a fine person, but there are a lot of charities and things like that where people donate millions and millions of dollars, and then you find out that 97% of it went for administration costs to pay people's multi-million-dollar salaries. And I think that that's the slope that we're sliding down. So I would have to say that I would rather go with my original intent for equipment and the project.
Thank you, Member Reynolds. As well, I'm in the queue here, and I appreciate staff for catching this. I think my only thing is that it probably should have been caught sooner. And again, it is pretty clear with the SPF that we don't fund positions. And so my thoughts are moving forward, or how to handle this situation is, because in my opinion, this should have been caught earlier, that just kind of forgiven as far as what was spent. But I would not like to see us moving forward in funding this position again. And it does not mean that you guys tried to sneak something by, or that the position that you're functioning in is not valuable, because I see it's very valuable. It's just like Member Reynolds said, we are just not the source of funding for that. Member Fowler?
I concur with everything that was said. If you're going to propose a project and ask for funding, then you have to pay for that yourself. I volunteer a lot myself, and I'm looking at people that volunteer hours and hours and hours and don't get paid for it. So if you're going to propose a project, make sure you're funding it. That's not what the SBF is designed for.
I just would like to just make one thing really crystal clear to everyone. We do not believe that the grantee did anything inappropriate. We believe it was a misunderstanding, and we
I agree
needed
with
clarification. I just, I think he
Yes.
has the utmost integrity and
Yeah.
honesty and everything. We don't even want anybody to misconstrue or imply anything.
I'm on that same page. And again, it should have been caught early on, but here we are, and just clarifying it now. Vice Chair Pittman?
And I'm going to make a motion here, and in case there's more discussion, I'm open to that. But my motion would be that we allow the grantee in this situation to come back with a clarification and description of their grant opportunity. And given the concerns that this body has created, and just, it seems to me fair to give an opportunity to the Feather River Center to amend their grant and work with city staff. Does that motion work? He's right. No, he sees. It's amazing when someone writes down what I say. It's like
You're wanting them to come back with a new proposal, including the position? Is that what you're wanting to
I'm
see?
just asking the organization that we granted the money to give them the opportunity to amend their grant.
We will, what I'm hearing is exactly what you just said. We're asking the grantee to return with a potential amendment of the grant that would be within the parameters of what the SBF allows.
So this motion is just for a request for them to re-clarify,
Yes, sir. This would be re-clarification and potential amendment. Then we have to.
There's two options here we do have to decide on as far as
Yes, sir.
funds that are currently in place. So we have a motion and a second. And I'm definitely fine with the clarification. So with staff direction here, one more vote.
Motion carries.
Awesome, great. And then with the option here, so we have to decide as far as the funds now, two options presented by staff is reimburse requests with minutes to reflect the direction of the committee, or to deny requests for reimbursement as non-allowed expenditures of grant monies, or other motions that may be presented. Yeah, so basically pay for the salary or don't pay the salary. Reimburse request with minutes to reflect the direction of the committee, or deny request for reimbursement as a non-allowed expenditure of grant monies. So basically pay for the salary or deny the request for the salary.
I make a motion that we discontinue the salary, that we make no request for the monies to be reimbursed, that the SBF accept responsibility for not having audited sooner.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Sorry, who seconded it? Okay. Motion carries.
Great. Moving through my agenda here. All right, that's all for regular business, right? So now we move to steering committee advisory members and staff comments. Department of Water Resources, Eric C., do you have any reports for us?
Yes, I do, and I just wanted to apologize to the committee for being late. I messed up with my schedule. So.
We voted you're paying for lunch next time.
Is that how we're? Oh, thank you.
For everybody in the room.
Yeah. Okay, good. So Jordan got it up here. Okay. All right. Let's see. This is kind of my intro slide. I work for the Department of Water Resources. My name is Eric C. I work here at the Oroville Field Division. I'm a non-voting advisory member to the Supplemental Benefits Fund. Next slide, please. Oh, I guess I can change those, huh? Okay, so this is a slide. In this update, I like to provide an outlook on Lake Oroville. This is the 10-day forecast. It's not real exciting right now. We've had pretty mild weather, so the lake does continue to increase. We did bottom out back in December, and the lake is slowly but surely rising. And so basically what on the right-hand side, the vertical bar is indicating the lake elevations. So lake's expected to rise about 3.5 feet this week. Nothing too exciting, but I'd like to provide this information. And just so you know, I do provide this information to state parks and to the marinas, so they're aware of any things happening with fast lake levels. So. Oh, and I should also point out, oftentimes after the slide, I'll provide the forecast for lake levels going out through the rest of the year. But this is the time of year where you really can't do that with any level of accuracy. We only have the one snow survey so far, the December survey. The January survey is coming up. After the January survey, we start getting a lot better picture of what kind of snowpack and water year that we have. But again, we're still very early in the water year. Just point back a few years back, 2017, was pretty mild right up till February hit, and then all hell broke loose. So, just to give you an idea, things can change very quickly in our watershed. 2015, we started out with pretty average, and we ended up with the driest spring on record. So, you never know what's going to happen in the middle of January. So, but I can't tell you what's going to happen over the next 10 days, I guess. Okay, so as far as flows to the river, right now there's 800 cubic feet per second flowing through here, what we call the low flow channel through the city of Oroville. And that combines with what's being released from the Afterbay outlet. And so the water that's flowing down from there is at 1,750 CFS as of today. Flows has been reduced slightly on the high flow channel, the releases from the Afterbay outlet. And that's done just for lake level management. We're looking forward a little bit. We're not seeing any big inflows projected, so we want to make sure we store water this time of year. Okay, I wanted to switch now to an update on the recreation projects. These are the projects that we've been working on related to the spillway boat ramp closure back starting in 2017 after the spillway emergency. So we, at the time, came up with a group of projects to implement to offset the impacts of that closure at Lake Oroville. So we had started a shuttle service to facilitate faster launching and recovery of boats at the other boat ramps, figuring there'd be a lot more congestion of those other boat ramps with the spillway boat ramp being closed. So because the spillway boat ramp is now open and in service again, we are no longer doing the shuttle service. So that project was completed. We expanded the Loafer Creek parking lot. That project's completed. We also expanded the Lime Saddle parking lot. Project completed. Bidwell Canyon Marina parking expansion. That's that area right next to the just south of the Bidwell Marina. That project is completed. We have a few more touch-up items we're going to do on that project, like putting some wheel stops in, just so people don't roll off the edge of the lot in the dark. So a few things to do there still, but it's pretty well completed. Bidwell Saddle Dam trailhead expansion. That was increasing the size of the trailhead considerably. We also added a horse trough. We brought water service to that area and added a horse trough and place to wash hands and some shade ramadas and picnic tables. At the let's see. Then the Bidwell Canyon Stage 1 boat ramp expansion. We added some lanes onto the Stage 1 boat ramp at Bidwell Canyon. Enterprise boat ramp, we have a project that's still in design for that location to extend that boat ramp. Bidwell Canyon Stage 2 expansion, this project is mostly completed. We say still in progress because we didn't quite get the project completed before the lake levels chased us out of the construction area. But we doubled the size of the parking lot. This is the second stage at Bidwell. And if you remember, that was a dirt parking lot, and we concreted the parking lot. So it's now a concrete parking lot, about twice the size of the original. There's a little bit more concrete that needs to be poured, and when lake levels allow, when the water drops down, we'll be able to complete that project. At the marinas, Lime Saddle and at Bidwell Canyon, at very low lake levels, we have some improvements we're going to be doing for improving the ability for people to get down to the marina on foot. And again, we got chased out of those areas because of the rising lake levels last year and the year before. So when the lake levels eventually drop down again, we'll get back and complete that project, or those two projects, because there's a project at each marina. And then the Loafer Point boat ramp facility. So this was a big one. It's a new boat ramp facility at the Loafer Point area. And that construction is actually in progress now. We started in December, and it's underway. And I had some additional pictures of that. So this is a brand new boat ramp facility. It's going to be new boat ramp lanes and two new parking lots. It's a two-stage boat ramp, so there's an upper stage and then a lower stage. The upper stage is the project that's being implemented right now. That's to build a parking lot with approximately 100 stalls, or 92 stalls, and a 3-lane launch ramp that will go from the high water mark down to 800 feet. The future Stage 2 project will go from the 810-foot level. We have a little bit of overlap with the Stage 1, just so you can have boats launching on one and then transition over to the other. And that will go down to, that will be 6 lanes down to 695 feet, and then from there it's going to go to 3 lanes down to as low as we can get it, and down to the very low lake levels.
Eric, with that plan, what happens to the old Loafer Creek ramp?
It stays there, so we'll actually have that extra boat ramp. So, and that ramp has a very big, large parking lot. So it's really, it's a nice facility in itself. It can launch down to about 780 or so. So we'll actually have 2 boat ramps in that area. So we'll have plenty of capacity, a lot more parking, a lot more launching capacity in that area. The people will have their choice. And that's the reason why we had the slightly different names, to hopefully avoid some confusion with that, because there's going to be a Loafer Point boat ramp and a Loafer Creek boat ramp. So, and I have some drone footage. So I thought it might be nice for everyone to see. This is the area of where the project is occurring. So this was the first week of January. Over on the right-hand side, just wanted to give you some orientation. You can see the existing swim area. That's that swim beach area. And then starting at the bottom of the screen, you can see that little building right there. That's the bathrooms out there at the day use area, the swim area. So this project is out on the point to the north of there. We'll construct a new road to get out there. Right now, we're using the existing road to get out there. The area's been temporarily closed to the public, so we can stage equipment and get vehicles and materials out there. But eventually there will be a new road punched in. We didn't want to, at first we thought about, maybe saving some money going across the existing parking lot, but then we figured that'd make a lot of congestion in that day use area with boat ramp or boat trailers. And so we just thought it'd be a better idea to have a separate road. So we actually are cutting in a new road, which you can see those white arrows on the left-hand side. That's where the new road alignment is going to go. And it takes you out to the stage 1 boat ramp area.
Before you move forward, can I bring something up just
Sure.
to put a bug in your ear? One of the big needs for the area being a warm water. I know I've already had this conversation with you, but I'll have it again for fun. Warm water swimming, and the Loafer Creek Swim Beach area that's there is a great area for families. My family actually used that a couple times this year, and it is an amazing place. A lot of kids out there, real safe, nice place to be. With the millions of dollars that are put in for the boat usage, I would love to see more diversification for families who don't have boats or horses. So far, the funds that are going right now are for people who can afford horses or a boat. And we do live in a community where predominantly it's more lower income people who, there are a lot of boats here, but there are also a lot of people who don't have boats or horses. So something potentially, even with the existing Loafer Creek Swim Beach area there, of some kind of I don't want to say dam, but to make it so that swim area can be used longer during the summer as opposed to only when the water is up to that high level mark. But some way that we could open that up so that families can use that longer in the summer as opposed to just, again. So I know there's a lot of money being spent on boats right now. I think your figure there was pretty high as far as the millions. This one alone, I think 13 million.
Sure, and again, I'm going to make a point about that because you make a very good point about what these projects were all related to. They're related to boat ramp facilities. The reason
horses.
why, and horses. Well, and the reason why was because this was a response to the closure at the spillway.
Right.
Because of the spillway closure, we lost boat launching, parking,
understand that.
and some trails,
yeah.
trailheads. So that was the reason why these projects were related to that.
And I'm not saying these aren't worthwhile projects. I'm just saying it's only hitting a very small demographic in our region. Whereas if everybody can swim.
Sure. Well, and so the that was a big topic during the settlement, the relicensing formation of what was a settlement agreement and that recreation management plan. And so as you mentioned, warm water swim facility, that's actually one of the requirements in the new recreation plan is to do an evaluation of this. And at the time we talked about, well, could we put a dam across the cove and hold water back, and that's going to create water quality issues, and there's a lot of issues that need to be resolved in that. So,
I'm from Boise originally, and they actually have also a lake, Lucky Peak Reservoir, and so it's really great access for the families. And at the base of Lucky Peak Reservoir, they actually have a warm water swim area that is dammed off. There is some water that flows through it, but they do have one of those things that shoots water up and away to there. So it's not too difficult to make it happen. I'm just throwing it out there, and that's something to be decided today. I'm just again putting another firebrand that it'd be great for some of the resources because you guys are writing checks quickly for parking lots and for horses, but it'd be great to see some funds that it's been the outcry of the city for a long time. If there were some funds that were diverted towards, and it looks like I'm open to a can, I apologize for this, but just to put a bug in your ear, if there was something that you guys could do in regards to that, that would be great. And on that, Brant, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Yes, with this closing of the spillway, did that affect the recreation use in the diversion pool?
Yeah, the recreation was closed in the diversion pool for
Recreation
a period
was
of time.
closed. Well, how much did you devote to replacing that recreation or adding to that recreation?
The diversion pool is open again. So as far as a recreation loss, we did best we could at the time with addressing those areas. So there is going to be a new access point that's going to be constructed. It's been actually delayed because of some permitting issues with FERC, with Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. You're familiar with the Lakeland Boulevard location. We're going to be punching in a vehicle access. Right now, to get out there, you have
Car top boat launching?
Oh, yeah. You have to park, as you know, about a half mile away or so and go over a trail to get to the water's edge. We're actually going to be putting a road in to be able to access that area. And then once we do that, we'll be able to have vehicles that we'll be able to drive up on that side of the diversion pool. So that project's on the list. We had hoped to get that done, 2 years ago, but it's been delayed. It still is delayed, but we're hoping to kind of break this logjam. It's a permitting issue with FERC. So, but back to Loafer Creek.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry, Sonny, was that?
Well,
Yep.
that opens the Oroville side of the whole community to the diversion pool.
Absolutely.
My gosh.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and then, when the new license issued in the new recreation plan, we're going to do a bunch of improvements to that site as well. I mean, there's going to be picnic tables and, there's going to be, it's going to be a day use area, an improved day use area. But, that's, when we implement the new rec plan.
Right.
But, but regarding that, at Loafer Creek, there is a project in the new rec plan for a warm water swim facility in this location. Because we couldn't really come up with an actual project back in the relicensing days, it was decided that DWR is required to do a feasibility study to figure out what needs to get done, which means we'll have to probably have some focus groups, talk about things like what you're talking about, having some kind of recirculation system, maybe some kind of aeration system, using potentially wild water out there, all the way up to maybe some kind of a treated swimming pool type of facility. But we'll need to whatever we look at, we got to make sure it's going to meet California health standards, and because we're going to be responsible for this facility. So all that's going to be part of that process. So we'll do that feasibility study and then figure out what's going to be the best alternative, and then go from there. So and that's triggered when the new license is issued and we implement the new recreation plan.
Great.
So these projects right now are all part of the current recreation plan.
And Alyssa's doing a great job designing this.
She is. Yeah, she absolutely is. Yeah, so she's out there on a daily basis, making sure they're getting this project right. So anyway, so in fact, Alyssa's the one that had these drone photographs taken. So let's see. So this is a little closer. Again, this is first week of January when they were just getting the cut in, working at the very bottom end of it. We know from some previous projects doing boat ramp expansions, you definitely want to start at the bottom and work your way back up because the lake comes up. And can come up very quickly when it starts raining like crazy. So we've been very cognizant of that. And I just wanted to point out at the very top of the screen, right at the end of the word project, you see some cut work up there. I'm going to show you another picture in a minute, a close-up of that. But that's where the stage 2 boat ramp eventually is going to go. So some of the cut work that we're doing from this current project, we're putting that fill out to the other location, which is going to make for the parking lot and part of the construction for that second phase. So this is a close-up picture. This was actually taken about 2 hours ago, and they're hard at work. So they have the concrete poured on the lower end of the ramp. So that's great because now even if the water comes up now, it's not a problem, and they're just going to keep working up from there. So they're very quickly getting this project done. And when it gets really rough and they get running into any problems here, they have some other work they can do on like the entrance road and stuff. So they're trying to work around the weather as best they can. So, but anyways, this is what it looks like as of a couple hours ago. So they're moving fast on that project. Okay, and here's that project. Here's that other angle. So this is looking from the lake, looking back towards the project. So this is where the stage 2 project is eventually going to go. And so you can see some of the earthwork they're doing there and placing fill right now. So eventually, in a future year when the lake gets low enough, we'll be able to work on that end of the project. But because this is going to be a low water launch ramp, it's one of those projects where you have to wait till we have a low water year to do the construction. So it's always a little bit difficult because we have to then get the crystal ball out and try to figure out, okay, what's going to be a year where we can do this project. So then you go out to bid and get a contractor and go through that process. So, but anyways, that's where that project eventually is going to be.
Eric, is there as you're going across the dam on the right-hand side where below there, did they pile a bunch of dirt there?
Let's see. On the far side, yeah, the Dam Crest parking lot. Yeah. So what happened? The original design of the dam is to have just riprap on the dam face itself. So for construction purposes, they had put that temporary road in, and so one of the things we're required to do is go back to our original design. And for many, many years, they'd left a little berm there that allows you to walk down, and technically, it probably weren't supposed to do that. So when they, took a look at the drawings and everything else, they're supposed to set it back to what's in the specifications for the dam. So they actually peeled that back, and you probably saw, they just have that rock riprap on there. So we are now looking at reestablishing that road for public use. That was a construction road. We're actually going to build a permanent public access road. So eventually, there's going to be there'll be a berm on that dam. But that's one of the things we have to address. But you're right. Yeah, they did peel that back as a requirement, our dam safety requirements. So I just wanted to provide a quick update on Lake Oroville debris removal. I've showed some of these slides before, but I have kind of a finishing slide I wanted to show everybody. But there's been questions we've received over the last couple of years quite a bit about what kind of debris removal activities the Department of Water Resources is engaged in up at the lake. And so this is what it looks like at the upper end of the river arms of Lake Oroville every year. Or not every year. Some years is worse than others, but we put, I think that's actually Middle Fork. Yeah. But we put booms. That is not McCabe. McCabe is, I do have a picture of McCabe kind of. So this is just capturing on the surface of the lake the materials with the log booms that we put across the coves. Hold this stuff back. We then go inside of the log boom, and we'll encircle this with another set of log booms and put them in these large pods. And so then these pods are hauled up to the South Fork arm to McCabe Cove. And so this is a picture from the Bidwell Bar Bridge of our workboat towing a group of these pods. And you see the arrow up at the top end. That's a 40-foot long boat, which is a pretty good sized boat for Lake Oroville. Just to give you some scale of how big these pods of debris are. So they haul these pods up to McCabe Cove. There's a boom line across McCabe Cove. That boom line is open. The material's brought inside. They close the boom line behind it, and then they boom that material into McCabe Cove. And they hold it there till the water drops over the course of the summertime into the fall and lays down. And we lay it down in a selected area in McCabe Cove, which you can see here. So this was back in this last season's probably early December, late November. You can see how much debris is in the cove, and for scale. There's actually a bulldozer at the tip of the arrow. Just to give you an idea, you can just barely see that little orange dot there is a bulldozer. That's how far away that that debris was laid down in that area. So it was many acres of debris that was then piled up and then burned over the last 6 weeks or so. And they're done with that project for the season. So but I just want to point out all that debris has been burned now. And Scott, this was actually for you. I think I had this in the last meeting. I think you might have stepped out right before I got to the slides. So I just want to show you had asked this question about, 2 years ago about the billboards on Highway 99. And so we worked with the chamber and finally got this completed last year. And there's 2 billboards, or two billboard signposts with the board on either side. So there's a total of four signs.
Great, looks great now, as long as we can stay up to snuff on those and not have them get dilapidated like the last ones.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you're already working on the designs for the next replacement, because those only last.
Yes, we are.
Great.
And now we know.
My only recommendation, because I drove by that, I actually live in Thermalito, so I drive by that when I go to Chico or wherever I'm going out on a date.
Let us know if there's,
Well, my thought is, just as a point of critique maybe for the future, is I see Camp on Lake, but going the speed limit, you're not going to go Lake Oroville.net, So I think before there was a uniform kind of thing where you knew what that was, whereas some of these, it's great, but there's not clear as far as who, what, Some of the other ones, this is Camp on the Lake. Obviously, I think a person would assume that it's talking about Lake Oroville, but if there was something that was clear as far as this is come to Oroville, come to Lake Oroville, type of stuff, whereas the LakeOroville.net in the bottom, even the sponsored by the California Department of Water Resources and the Oroville Chamber of Commerce, nobody's going to read that. But if there was something that people could see that could immediately let them know Oroville. Anyway, that's just a point of critique, but it looks way better than it did.
All right,
Say
well,
that.
maybe before we pick the next ones, we'll shoot an email too with what they look like. so.
Sure.
All right.
Thank you for
Okay,
doing that.
That was.
And
that was it.
rebuilding, because I know they were falling apart. In fact, plywood was falling off the last ones.
Oh, I know, we had a storm that just tore it apart, so it took a while. That was part of the process. But I will say, it should be a lot smoother next time to get them
Great.
replaced, because we know how to do it now.
Nice.
That was it, thanks.
Thank you. Next, Tim Haynes is not here, Jordan Daly. And actually, do we have a report from Mr. Grover? I don't see.
No, I have nothing.
Okay, Jordan?
Amber did good.
Would you like a report next time from Mr. Grover? We could add one to the agenda if you guys would like more advisory reports. Completely up to you. My report is just a written report in there for you guys of what I work on in between our committee meetings. So there's just a written report for your leisurely reading.
Great. And so we have correspondence, letter to FERC.
I
approved by-
do. We have quite a few listed correspondence there for you guys as well for your reading. There was the letter approved to FERC by the city council, so that's included in there. It's not the signed version, but it is the most updated version. There's also a quarterly report from Stage and the third quarter report, which you guys heard from Amber at the chamber, and then the letter from the Oroville Pickleball Association and their request in there.
I just want to make a public note. I just am really impressed with the way that the Stage is operating and just being clear, even with this quarterly report of what's going on. I really appreciate that from our grantees.
Mr. Chairperson, if I could add to the correspondence regarding the Pickleball Association letter, the reality is that there's probably not going to be funding there for anything such as this for until such time as a license is signed. So that's going to be quite a ways down the road.
Unless DWR wants to write us another check.
Unless DWR is willing to do that.
Or state water contractors.
Well, instead of doing that, why don't we just hold Eric personally responsible for it?
There we go. Until it's signed.
Yeah. Well, I think there is an alternative, though. I mean, I just want to make sure that the Pickleball Association is aware that there are multiple pickleball courts at Ishii Hills Middle School. They're designated for that. Yeah, okay, it's an alternative. Right. It's the one that exists. I just want to be.
Matter of order, please.
Yeah, it's just it's an option. So I just want to make sure that everybody knew that that did exist. It is there. Because this is the picture that we got. The proposal is a very expensive proposal, and right now we don't have the funding for that, and I don't see it anytime soon without the signing of the license.
Great. And so we have any from the dais here, any motions for future agenda items?
Mic on? Okay, it's on. Just an idea, and maybe I can get some response to a future agenda item, but one of the things that I've seen the value of is having other schools, classrooms, youth groups, church groups come and visit our facilities, the Feather River Center, the fish hatchery, the museums in town. And I know there's a limiting factor to a lot of the schools' ability to come and visit the community. So I had the idea of having some kind of a grant program that say a teacher in Durham or Chico wanted to come and visit the Oroville facilities, and we should list those, that we have some kind of a grant program that offers them a reimbursement of expenses for providing the school bus, whatever they charge, because I know some teachers tell me it's so much a mile for a school bus and a variety of things. I know there's extra expenses in order to get students and youth groups from other communities to come and visit our facilities. So the thought I had was some kind of a grant process that we may have, that a teacher could make an application to visit X, Y, and Z facilities in Oroville area. And we offer that because that brings a large group of people that, if you train the kids to come and visit, they'll come back in the future. And I would just like to have it maybe as an agenda item in the future if the committee so sees fit to. And I don't know what the numbers would be. I've talked to a few teachers that $500 per visit would be more than enough, maybe $250. There's a lot of possibilities there, but some way to encourage youth groups, I wouldn't just limit it to schools. Any nonprofit group that wants to bring the youth here to come visit our facilities, I think would be a big plus. I'd be interested in that kind of an idea.
I would second that for a discussion item on the next council, and to just kind of underline, I think it's a great idea. Sadly, in our day, that a lot of parents aren't, I don't know, being as outdoorsy as maybe times past. So maybe just introducing youth, kids to what's available here in our beautiful area would be great to at least put those seeds in them for.
And let me just add this. I had a conversation with someone from another town. I won't even mention it. But when I asked them if they've ever been to Lake Oroville, they said, yeah, I see it every time I drive down Highway 99. What?
Good eyes.
They actually thought the Afterbay was Lake Oroville. Now, I'm not trying to be facetious, but that was a real conversation. So, because of that, I've started thinking, how can we get people and the kids here? Because I'm not sure you can train adults after a certain age, but you can train the youth. And that, to me, makes a lot of sense. And to me, it'd be wide open. I mean, I think if I was a teacher in Quincy and wanted to bring my students down here, there are some expenses that would occur, but I can see that it may be advantageous to encourage that activity for all of our facilities, for the rec district, the gymnastics academy. I think that'd be a good possibility too. I mean, it's wide open as far as what facilities we have. When you look at the list, it's pretty wide and varied. So it'd be a nice discussion to have in the future.
Great. Member Brandt?
At the last committee meeting, Chairman, after you had to leave, I requested that we have a reappointment of the committees. And the reason for that is the transient problem we've had in our parks and the policing problem that's a joint responsibility of the Recreation District, the City of Oroville, and the state parks. And those three agencies have to get together and have to do a job of policing the River Parkway along our waterways. And I was involved in enough of cleanup of transient camps in that river. And the things I saw inside our riverbed are sickening. And I know that the winter chases them out. And there's been some good work done, and they're not as prevalent as they were. But we got to get on top of it. We have to all be involved. We have to be working together. And you've got to get them out of there daily. And I don't care whether the state does it or the city does it or the recreation district does it. But we've all got to be committed to it. We've all got to put the funds there to get it done, and we've got to do it. We can't let our transients live in our most beautiful area and scare the rest of the population out. Can't do it.
So was there, I agree, it's definitely an important item. Is there a specific motion for future agenda on that topic?
I'll make that motion.
Or I guess I need
Appointment of
to,
committees. You have standing committees.
for the city or for the SBF?
For the SBF, yeah.
Do we have subcommittees in the SBF? My
We can, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like, at the next quarterly meeting, we'll research that, and if it is appropriate, we will have that re-agendized for any appointments to any committees that exist. Commissioner Brandt, just to update you, over the last couple months, I have met with stakeholders regarding that, everyone from Fish and Game to Highway Patrol to local police to the Sheriff's Department and everyone else. There is a concerted effort. Assemblyman Gallagher has actually immersed himself into it as well. and is leading this charge to make sure that all of the state agencies that are responsible for that state responsibility area are doing what they should be doing in that area. State Parks has also been at the table. The Highway Patrol has agreed to regularly visit the area as much as possible. When given that same statement that they need to do it on a daily basis, it's not possible for the Highway Patrol to do that. They don't have the manpower. Nobody does. But they are going to be there, they said, on a weekly basis in the high or the low flow channel, which is the state responsibility area. One of the things that we agreed to as the city, provided that we have future approval of the council as a policy, is that we are going to be running a herd of goats through there. It's going to start somewhere near Bedrock Park, and it's going to go all the way back up toward the Green Bridge. Because what our goal is to clean out all of the non-indigenous species and indigenous, but to do it in an environmental friendly way, to have them come through there, because I believe once we do that and it's opened up and people can see down to the water and a lot of these hiding places that you see these folks in, they won't be back down there. And, you know, we're not just going to do it one time, provided that our council agrees to it. We're going to try to run the herd of goats through there once in the spring, once in the late fall, to keep that foliage down so we don't have a resurgence of that.
So
But we are actively working on that.
But I think we need somebody there daily.
Well,
Somebody has to go through once a day.
I don't think any
Someone-
of us.
I'll be glad to take that job. I'd love
Well-
to go from the south end of Riverbend Park up to the dam and back on a little motorized vehicle, and I think the Supplemental Benefit Fund bought some little carts to do that type of activity, and I'd be happy to ride one up and down the river every
Well,
day
the
to
issue-
make sure no one's camping there.
The issue isn't what you do of going up and down the river. The problem becomes when you find somebody. I mean, because you are not qualified to go up there and confront somebody living down there, because you have no idea who you're contacting or what they're capable of and where you're at. It's a dangerous proposition to suggest that.
If I can jump in here for a minute.
And this is a
I
little
think
off
what
topic
Sonny
to
is
our-
trying to say is, you know, he's been active with me in our park watch patrols, volunteer walking groups, if you will. If we have somebody, we've had this discussion, if we have somebody we can have in real time answer the phone call when there's a problem, that changes everything. I did the path today. They're out on the islands again after we cleaned it up. There's pallets, there's all kinds of stuff. It's just, it keeps coming back. It's not as bad. I had a conversation, I told the person, no, it's a lot better than what it has been. But it can change for better or worse real quick. So I don't think Sonny's talking about confrontation. He's talking about having boots on the ground where we can make a report and you have real effect in real time.
Okay,
It's
so
that simple.
A
And then if I can
telephone
carry
call.
on what David said, I like that idea of let's be inclusive countywide, let's think regionally. But I want to make sure that the children of Oroville and the greater Oroville area first have access. There's a lot of people from Oroville, South Oroville, that have never even been on the lake. They should come first.
yeah. So with that, just keeping on topic because we're in the weeds now. Let's pull back out of the weeds. And so putting this on the agenda for a future item.
Yes, sir.
Great. Is there any more? I see Fowler, Vice Chair Pittman. Did you say what you needed to say?
I did, thank you.
Vice Chair Pittman,
Just, actually, it's a quick note.
you're muted.
Okay. For the Pickleball Association, and I understand the need, and I certainly see the growth, you really need to work with the rec district because they would essentially be the lead agency. And you can always get numbers, costs, and have the project proposed and prepared for a future whatever. And who knows, we might find money, but it's great to have that cost factor there. And that's a big step in the line. So I would hope to see that happen in the future.
Great. So, it's a side conversation you guys can have, but any other future agenda items? I see that in the queue, we still have, I think everybody's talked, it's in the queue.
Oh, I'm removing.
Great. Well, if there's no more future agenda items, then this meeting is adjourned. The next regular quarterly meeting of the Supplemental Benefit Steering Committee we held Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020 at 2 PM. And do we know if it's going to be here or where it's going to be at?
He'll be here.
Here in the council chambers. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Have a great day. This meeting is adjourned.